Lesson 1-6 is on relations and functions. You may have remembered from before that ordered pairs are always written with the x first and the y second. The domain is all the x values, and the range is all the y values. I remember because x comes before y in the alphabet, and D comes before R in the alphabet, so it's kind of alphabetical order. If we look at a table to identify domain and range, the year is the domain, the range is the amount. So to list all of these as ordered pairs, we just say in the savings account in the year 2007, there were $300. In the year 2008, there were $350. So when you write ordered pairs, they are always in parentheses with a comma between them. To write domain, you frequently see a capital D, just for short. You start your list with a bracket, and you list each element in the domain, and if there are any repeats, you don't need to list them. So in this case, we had a new number every time. For the range, you can abbreviate it R, and you put the squiggle, and you list all of the amounts in the range. So 300, 350, 400, 450, and then even though the 500 repeats twice, you only need to write it one time, and then you close the curly bracket. Functions pair x and y values together. But the most important thing that makes something a function is the domain cannot repeat. So you can't have any repeat x's. Or some of my students in the past have said no same domain. So in 2a, to make the ordered pairs, from a mapping diagram, we go from the domain, the x's, to the range, the y's. And this arrow means that 2 and a go together. It means 2 and B go together, and it means the 2 and the C go together. When we list the domain, capital D, here's the squiggle. Since there's only one element in the domain, we just need to write the 2. And for the range, we have A, B, and C. It's also important to write the domain and range values in numerical or alphabetical order. Is this a function? No. The fact that the domain repeats 2, 2, 2 over and over and over makes that not a function. When we look at 2b, you could list out all the ordered pairs. You would look at each dot to see how far back on the x-axis this is, -2, and then it's up 2. You could list each of those ordered pairs. The domain, I would look at all of the x values it sits on. So we know this dot is at -2. We know this dot's at -1. We know that dot's at 0. And then it goes to 1, 2, and 3. For the range, it looks like the lowest y number it goes to is at that level, so -3. Then -2, then -1, and then 0, 1, and 2. 0, 1, 2. Is that one a function? Yes, because none of those domain values repeated. The domain in 2C would be all of those numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8. The cooking time would be all of those numbers, 5, 8, 10, 11. And this one is a function because when you look at those domain values, none of them repeat. That wouldn't make sense anyway. You wouldn't cook rice for 2 servings at 5 minutes and then make another serving of 2 and cook it for a different amount of time. That would just be silly. Finally, a person's last name and their social security number. As an ordered pair, you could put the last name Smith and then their social security number. Let's do the last 4 digits. You could do a different last name, let's say Brown, and a different last 4 digits of the social security number, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. So you could list the x values, those for the domain. You could list the y values for the range, and this one would not be a function because there are tons of people with the last name Smith, tons of people with the last name Brown, and there would be repeats. The difference between these two mappings is that A is not a function because the 2 is repeated with the A, the B, and the C, and B is a function. If you look in B, the range repeats, but that's okay. The range is allowed to repeat, it's just the domain that can't. If you're looking at a graph to figure out if it's a function or not, you can use the vertical line test. This example right here fails the vertical line test, so it is not a function because the red line intersects the purple parabola at more than 1 point. So the fact that it crosses it twice makes it not a function. If I gave you a graph of a straight line or even a wavy line and I drew a vertical line through it at any point, it would only cross the function 1 time. So that means that it would be a function. If we do the vertical line test on 3A, if we put a line right there, it would fail, so that would not be a function. If we did the vertical line test on this one, it wouldn't matter where we drew the vertical line, but the blue and the red, as you can see, would only intersect 1 time, so yes, that would be a function. And finally, 3C, this one is a no, because the line would cross in more than 1 place.